Part 2. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Leng Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 11. Xuanhuan. It was 7 days later. In Chang'an, the storm not only did not stop, but intensified. It seemed that there was a black hand behind the scenes that was fanning the flames and guiding the direction of public opinion. In addition, Zhang Luoshan, the daughter of the king of Zhenbei, was suspected of announcing a rebellion, which caused 1,000 waves. Chang'an was filled with gloom and sorrow. The emperor of Dakan was incompetent, and the king of Zhenbei was loyal and righteous, but he was framed by treacherous people and killed. The incompetent monarch was cruel and tyrannical, and killed without restraint. The king of Zhenbei is a hero of the northern border, and we will never allow anyone to tarnish his honor. Dakan is dead. The streets and alleys were full of discussions. Everyone was filled with righteous indignation and grief, and they wanted to rush into the palace to seek justice for the king of Zhenbei. Even some officials in the court, under the signal of some people, personally went down to denounce the incompetent monarch. Among them, Guo Moi and other scholars from Xuanhuan Academy were the most radical. In order to express his admiration for the king of Zhenbei, he personally wrote a manifesto to denounce the tyrant passionately. The Emperor Qin Mu of the Great Qin is lustful and incompetent, which is the misfortune of the Great Qin. The incompetent emperor is unkind, and the people in the northern border are boiling with resentment. The king of Zhenbei is loyal and righteous, and the minister of rights is upright and upright. Many manifestos were spread all over Chang'an city. These manifestos were more severe and heartbreaking than the other, and every word was heartbreaking. There were even some manifestos that made the people of Chang'an cry after reading them, and they felt the same. The Great Qin is over. Qin Mu is lustful and incompetent, and he deserves to die. Humph. This kind of waste is not worthy of being the emperor at all. In Chang'an city, countless people roared and roared. The ministers were excited and united. However, this carnival only belongs to the common people. As for those noble families, they are more cautious and careful in their words and deeds. Because such a situation is obviously fanned by someone behind the scenes. Moreover, it is not an ordinary person. So many noble families are hesitant and entangled, not knowing how to stand. After all, this is related to the life and death of their family, and they cannot be careless. For a time, the undercurrents of all parties surged, and the atmosphere was very weird. Qin Mu, your doomsday has come. At this moment, in Chang'an city, in a luxurious villa, Qin Shijing sat in the main hall, sneering. The mastermind behind this is naturally him, or them. There are 3 princes in the Great Qin dynasty. Qin Shijing, king of Hengyang. Qin Shijia, king of Huainan. And Qin Wuji, king of Xiaoao. Among them, Qin Shijing and Qin Shijia are brothers, from the same mother, born to the royal concubine, and have a close relationship. And Qin Wuji, king of Xiaoao, is the only son like Qin Mu. It's just that Qin Mu was born to the queen, so his status is slightly higher than Qin Wuji. However, Qin Wuji has never been interested in power and the throne, so he rarely participates in court affairs. He doesn't even have a fiefdom and personal soldiers. He has always lived in the imperial city and stayed at home. He is a truly idle prince. At least, on the surface. Therefore, among the 3 princes, only the king of Hengyang and the king of Huainan are the most active. The king of Hengyang has been stationed in Chang'an city and actively participated in various court affairs. The king of Huainan controls hundreds of thousands of troops and guards the southern border of Dakan to prevent foreign barbarians from invading. However, there is a natural barrier on the southern border known as the Forbidden Land of Life. Foreign barbarians rarely invade Dakan from the southern border, so there is no danger. Therefore, the reputation of the king of Huainan is not as loud as that of the king of Zhenbei, but he is also considered the #1 figure in Dakan and has considerable influence. Now, Huainan King Qin Shiji quietly returned to Beijing and planned all this with Hongyang King Qin Shijing, his brother. Although Qin Mu is incompetent, he still has a dark god guard in his hands, and can even revive the quasi-emperor weapon. Moreover, there may be an ancestor in the ancestral mausoleum to support him. If he is forced into a hurry, it may cause trouble for us. At this time, in the hall, Qin Shiji frowned slightly, a little worried. Don't worry, the quasi-emperor weapon and the ancestor are the foundation of the great Qin, and they will not be easily used until the last moment. Besides, we are just making the people's impression of Qin Mu worse, and we don't expect to force him to step down now. Qin Shijing shook his head and said, "Oh, so brother has another clever plan." Hearing this, Qin Shiji's brows relaxed. "Don't worry, we won't do it ourselves, there will be people to charge for us." Qin Shijing smiled at the corner of his mouth and said slowly. He had been planning this conspiracy against Qin Mu for a long time. He had been secretly planning it a few years ago. He used his network of connections to bribe a group of scholars from Xuanhuan Academy and fabricated Qin Mu's crimes. At the beginning, he did not expose Qin Mu because he was waiting for this moment. It turns out that my brother has been prepared. Hearing Qin Shijing's words, Qin Shiji instantly understood Qin Shijing's plan and showed joy on his face. People from Xuanhuan Academy have already started writing articles to mobilize the public's emotions. I did this very secretly, and it can't be traced to us at all. As for the Dark God Guard, now that the daughter of the king of Zhenbei, Luoshan, has declared rebellion, he will be exhausted sooner or later. Wait until all the Dark God Guards are used up, then kill Qin Mu and seize the quasi-emperor armament. Even when the public turmoil reaches its maximum, we might be able to get our ancestors to come forward and dethrone Qin Mu from the throne. Qin Shijing said indifferently, with a cold and sinister look in his eyes. Good. Qin Shiji nodded with deep understanding. This time, he can't escape. Qin Shijing snorted coldly, his tone full of murderous intent. Qin Mu, as the eldest son of the late emperor, was also a candidate for the crown prince. However, he didn't look like a prince at all. He was lustful, and extravagant. And he has always been conscientious, diligent in government, caring for the people, abiding by his duties, and devoted himself to the royal family. In the end, he still missed the throne. He was filled with resentment. Now he has finally waited for this day to get back all the things he had lost. He wanted Qin Mu to try it and feel the taste of losing everything. Qin Shiji looked at his brother, who seemed to be addicted to some kind of fantasy, with an imperceptible weird smile on his face. At this moment, the two men, who each had their own agenda, showed ferocious faces, full of confidence. At this time, Chang'an City was in chaos. The people came to the street one after another and scolded Qin Mu until his body was completely covered with blood. The bachelors of Xuanhuan Academy wrote messages in restaurants and tea houses, denounced Qin Mu's evil deeds. Guo Moi even claimed that Qin Mu was transformed by a demon from outside the territory, and that the purpose of murdering the king of Zhenbei was to overthrow the imperial court. In short, there are endless slanderous words. At this moment, Guo Mansion. Guo Moi sat in the guest room, holding a message in his hand, very satisfied. These messages were enough to completely discredit Qin Mu and make his reputation fall to the bottom. Master, is it really okay for you to let them march on the streets? Mrs. Guo, who was plump and graceful, looked at her husband and hesitated to speak. She felt something was wrong. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 12. Don't worry, madam. Now that the rebellion has been announced in the north, that foolish king is already too busy to take care of himself. It's hard to deal with it. and your husband is the representative of all the literati in the world at this moment. At this juncture, the faint king will never dare to act rashly, unless he wants to be drowned in spittle. Unless he doesn't want the world of Qin. Guomoy smiled lightly, his face full of pride. He certainly wasn't arrogant. Hanwen Academy gathers all Hanlin bachelors from the entire Great Qin Kingdom, and every bachelor has a very high reputation in Great Qin. His students are spread all over the country, holding official positions in various states and counties, and have great influence. At this time, so many people are breaking out at the same time, who dares to act rashly? Otherwise, it will definitely cause a riot in the court. As one of the leaders of Hanwen Academy, Guomoy is naturally confident. And the king of Hongyang has promised me that once this matter is over, he will let us hide in his palace for a while. When he takes the throne in the future, he will recommend me as a national advisor to control the government and the public. Guomoy said confidently and with enthusiastic eyes. I see. Mrs. Guo immediately became happy when she heard this. The national preceptor can be said to be an official with real power. He holds the power of the country and can decide life or death with just one sentence. If Guomoy could really become the prime minister, wouldn't she have a meteoric rise? Haha, madam, you will be Mrs. Zaifu when the time comes, and you will enjoy endless glory and wealth. Guomoy said happily. Mrs. Prime Minister, what kind of respected status is that? Mrs. Guo nodded shyly, her beautiful face glowing with a faint blush. When Guomoy saw this scene, he suddenly became confused. He chuckled. Madam, why don't we celebrate in advance tonight? As soon as these words came out, Mrs. Guo's pretty face turned red. She glared at Guomoy shyly, then stood up nervously and walked towards the inner house. Flames rose in Guomoy's eyes, and he laughed, full of obscenity. Just when he was about to follow in, there was a knock on the door. Who? Guomoy shouted impatiently. The door of the room was pushed open, and a guard ran in a panic. Master, no, something big has happened. What's the matter? Guomoy frowned and shouted. Sir, there was news just now that all the bachelors of the Chinese Academy of Sciences who were parading on the street were arrested. The guard breathed heavily and screamed in horror. What? Guomoy's expression suddenly changed. Boom. At this moment, the entire Guo family manor suddenly began to tremble violently. There seemed to be thousands of troops and horses galloping towards them, with a mighty and deafening sound. No, sir, there are imperial guards surrounding our mansion and want to arrest us. At this moment, another guard burst in with a look of panic on his face. The words have not yet fallen. The next moment, the house collapsed and smoke spread. Boom. Then, there was only a muffled sound. A pitch-black war spear pierced through the smoke and went straight into the doorframe, almost piercing Guomoy. Hiss. In an instant, Guomoy was frightened out of his mind. His legs became weak and he collapsed directly on the ground. Come on, help me! Guomoy yelled crazily. His voice was extremely shrill, filled with boundless fear and terror. However, no one paid any attention to him. There were continuous screams and wailing outside. After just a moment, all the sounds disappeared and the world returned to silence. At the same time, a strong smell of blood drifted into the room from outside. Guomoy's whole body was stiff and he was in a daze. With trembling hands, he crawled out of the room with difficulty and looked outside. In an instant, his pupils suddenly shrank, as if falling into an ice cave. I saw the entire Guo family, rivers of blood and corpses strewn all over the ground. Thousands of guards and servants, including their wives, children, all died violently. Not only that, his parents had several sharp swords held on their necks, and they were completely lifeless. Bodies were laid out one after another, blood splattered on the ground. In the Guo mansion, there were bursts of wailing and crying. Master! Master! In the Guo family, a group of maids and servants screamed and ran away screaming. Don't kill me, spare my life. Looking at the blood-stained war guns and the cold and murderous faces, Guo trembled all over and almost collapsed. I don't dare anymore. I know I was wrong. Please let me go. Guo voice was hoarse and tears were streaming down his face. In these people, he felt an extremely strong evil spirit and murderous intention. Without hesitation, he fell to his knees on the ground, kowtowed and begged for mercy. At this moment, he was heartbroken. He is no longer as arrogant and domineering as before. However, at this moment, the sound of a sword piercing the throat sounded. Guomoy's eyes widened and his mouth opened slightly, but he couldn't say anything. The next moment, he covered his wound and slowly fell down. When he was dying, he saw his closest wife being held by the throat by a man shrouded in black. Dark God Guard. Guomoy's mouth opened wide, and the last picture in his eyes was his wife's frightened eyes and her worried expression. However, he could never take a second look. Accompanied by the splash of blood, Guomoy's head flew up into the sky and rolled to the side. Bang! The headless body fell to the ground. The head of the Guo family, Guomoy, the Grand Secretary of Xuanhuan Academy, was killed on the spot. Mrs. Guo shed silent tears, her beautiful eyes filled with despair and fear. Carry all the bodies and parade them in the streets. The man in black ordered in a deep voice. Soon, a group of imperial guards quickly carried Guomoy's body away from the Guo family and tied it to the city wall with hemp rope. At the same time, the other Xuanhuan Academy scholars who participated in the parade were also arrested. Woo woo woo. The horn sounded, and the gong sounded, resounding throughout the city of Chang'an. Hua la la. In an instant, flags fluttered on the city wall. One prisoner car after another slowly drove over, escorting the Xuanhuan Academy scholars, and others, tied to the city wall, and lined up in a row. Let me go. You incompetent and incompetent emperor. Your Majesty, I was wrong, please let me go. I am innocent. These things have nothing to do with me. I was forced to do it. You dare to treat us like this, aren't you afraid of the scolding of the world's scholars? At this time, these scholars were cursing, begging for mercy, threatening, crying and shouting that they were wronged, all kinds of voices mixed together, making a lot of noise. However, no matter how they struggled, it was in vain. The eunuch's high-pitched voice resounded through the sky. By the will of heaven, the emperor decrees, Guomoy, a scholar of the Xuanhuan Academy, led the people to rebel, and his crimes are serious. Now his whole family has been executed, and the rest of the accomplices are ordered to be beheaded to show the public as a warning. This is the order. The eunuch sang loudly. Then, two teams of imperial guards wearing armor and holding sharp blades came forward. The heads of the Xuanhuan Academy scholars who participated in the parade and cursed the tyrant were cut off. Clang! In an instant, endless blood splashed down, dyeing the sky red, shocking. This scene made the people of Dakan who heard the news tremble. Everyone was silent. Who could have imagined that a generation of Xuanhuan scholars would have such a disaster today? If there are any more people who discuss it, they will be killed without mercy. The eunuch read the imperial edict again to deter the villains. Below, many people knelt on the ground and trembled. No one dared to say a word, and even dared not think about it in their hearts. For a time, Chang'an City fell into a deathly silence. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 13. The eunuch looked at the scene around him with satisfaction, waved the whisk and turned away. The imperial guards also retreated. However, the entire city of Chang'an was still immersed in haze and could not calm down for a long time. Dozens of Hanlin Academy scholars were actually executed by the emperor. This incident was enough to detonate the government and the opposition. And for the entire Hanwen Academy, it is even more terrible news. Some people even discovered that Han Sueki, the wife of Guo Moi of Hanwen Academy and known as the talented girl of Chang'an, seemed to have been brought to the palace. It's easy to imagine what happened next to the famously lecherous emperor of Qin and Mrs. Guo. When everyone was scared, they felt a little sad inside. A dignified bachelor of the Hanlin Academy, highly respected. However, the final result was so miserable. Not only was his entire family executed, but his wife was also reduced to a plaything. It's so sad. With such a foolish king, does De Qin really have a future? Countless people think so in their hearts. Of course, they only dare to think about it in their hearts and don't dare to express it at all. They don't want to be executed by the whole family and kill all the 9 clans. In Chang'an City, the peace of the past was restored. All the voices of attacking the Hanjun disappeared at this moment and became silent. Only the headless corpses and the strong smell of blood linger for a long time, reminding the world at all times. Hengyang Palace. Crack. Hengyang King Qin Shijing looked angry and threw the cup in his hand to the ground. The teacup shattered into pieces and the tea splashed. Trash, everything is trash. Qin Shijing's face was distorted, almost crazy. The rapid demise of the Guo family was completely beyond his expectation and caught him off guard. Brother, we still underestimated His Majesty. Even the Hanwen Academy didn't stop him. Qin Shiji sighed. This foolish king is simply insane and has lost all humanity. Qin Shijing gritted his teeth and his face was ferocious. Brother, be careful. I suspect that the Hanjun has already killed you. If the news leaks out, we will be in danger. Qin Shiji hurriedly admonished. He couldn't sleep well these days. He always felt like the dark god guard was hiding in the dark and watching him. So much so that he had to have a guard stay by his side at all times before he could sleep. Humph, so what, I am the king of Hengyang, a nobleman of Tianhuang. That dog emperor dares to kill me. Qin Shijing sneered. He is a member of the royal family and a direct descendant of the great Qin royal family. How can he be compared to a mere vassal king with a different surname and a bachelor of Hanwen Academy? My brother is right. No matter how violent the emperor is, he will not dare to kill us. Qin Shiji nodded and said. But even so, we have to be on guard. Qin Shijing pondered for a moment and ordered. Shiji, you will return to southern Xinjiang immediately and integrate the army to be ready to meet unexpected needs. Yes. Qin Shiji bowed and accepted the order. In addition, send spies to keep a close eye on the movements in the north and report back at any time. I will obey my brother's orders. Qin Shiji replied respectfully. Immediately afterwards, the two brothers discussed it and took action separately. And at the same time, inside the palace, Guo Moi's wife, Han Sueki, was also escorted to Viang Palace. Looking at the extremely luxurious and magnificent palace in front of me, Han Sueki's face turned pale, and there was an uncontrollable fear in her heart. One moment, she was still at home dreaming of a better future, and the next moment her family was ruined and she became a prisoner. How could she accept this? Moreover, she still remembers it clearly. At that time, Guo Moi was still looking high-spirited and told her that he wanted to achieve the position of prime minister, shine on the family lintel, and make her the wife of the chief minister. However, in just a few moments, Guo Moi's head was missing, the entire Guo family was raided, and she fell from the clouds to dust in an instant. For a moment, Han Sueki was confused, her eyes were blank, and she stood there blankly. There was only one thought left in her mind. What should she do? Mrs. Han, please. A palace maid came to Han Sueki's side. Her tone was cold and indifferent, as if she was trying a case file. Han Sueki slowly came back to her senses. She glanced at the palace maid, and then walked towards the palace. Soon, Han Sueki stepped into Vyang Palace. It's just that at this moment, she doesn't have any of the manners of a talented girl from Chang'an and a bachelor's wife of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. Her clothes were messy, her makeup was messed up, her hair was messed up, her delicate hairpin fell all over the floor, and her shoes and socks had several holes in them. Even that extremely beautiful face was stained with dust. The whole person looked extremely miserable and haggard. Han Sueki's character design. However, as if she didn't know anything, she followed Gong Yi blankly and slowly walked towards Vyang Palace. Soon, the two came to a side hall. In the middle of the side hall, there is a screen. Through the screen, you can vaguely hear happy laughter coming from inside. Needless to say, the most noble being in the Qin dynasty must be sitting inside, Qin Mu. At this moment, Han Sueki's heartbeat accelerated, her breathing became rapid, and her heart pounded wildly. She didn't know what she would face next. Is it death? Is it alive? Or become a plaything? No matter which one it is, she knows that she can't choose. She has no way to escape. Just when Han Sueki was feeling uneasy. Are you Han Sueki? Suddenly, a beautiful woman came in with a tray, her face indifferent. Han Sueki raised her head. What came into view was a woman in gauze, about 28 years old. She had a graceful figure, bright eyes and white teeth, a stunning face, and skin as crystal as jade, as white as fat, and as delicate as a blow. Especially a pair of phoenix eyes, shining and charming. She stood there, in a trance, like a fairy who had fallen into the mortal world, intoxicating. But the strong pressure emanating from her made Han Sueki's heart palpitate. It was a tremor from the depths of her soul. She swayed her body, moved her lotus steps, and slowly came to Han Sueki's side. Seeing this, Han Sueki was shocked and knelt on the ground involuntarily. I, Han Sueki, pay my respects to the queen. Han Sueki bowed her head and said. She was uneasy and frightened. Although she didn't know the other party's identity, she knew that she had an extraordinary background at a glance. She didn't dare to neglect it. Yes. The beautiful woman nodded lightly and said indifferently. Raise your head. She said. Immediately, Han Sueki slowly raised her head. What a beautiful woman. The beautiful woman praised slightly. Thank you for the compliment, Queen. Han Sueki was even more uneasy. I already know about your story. Guo Moi is guilty of treason and rebellion. The beautiful woman said calmly. According to the order of His Majesty, all 9 clans should be executed. Hearing this, Han Sueki's delicate body trembled, and her already haggard face turned even paler, her eyes filled with despair, sadness, and pain. Is she really going to die? But suddenly, just when Han Sueki was about to faint, the beautiful woman changed her tone. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 14. The beautiful woman looked lightly and continued. However, Your Majesty has a kind heart and cannot bear to kill innocent people indiscriminately or commit more crimes, so he decided to pardon your crime. After hearing these words, Han Sueki suddenly felt as if she had been granted amnesty, and quickly kowtowed and thanked. Thank you for your mercy, Your Majesty. Your Majesty's holy virtues will be engraved in the hearts of common women and will never be forgotten. Get up. The beautiful woman waved lightly and said. Thank you, Empress. Han Sueki climbed up carefully. At this time, her heart was filled with joy of surviving the disaster. Although, When she heard His Majesty's words of kindness, she wanted to curse. You, the most stupid king in history, still have the nerve to say that you are kind-hearted? Bah! Of course, Han Sueki didn't have the courage to say it out loud, so she could only hold her anger in her stomach and kept cursing in her heart. However, at this moment, the beautiful woman changed the subject again. Han Sueki, since His Majesty is kind and has given you the opportunity, you must not miss the opportunity. Hearing this, Han Sueki's heart skipped a beat. She felt a deep sense of vigilance in her heart. This noble, elegant, goddess-like, and beautiful woman seems to have no intention of letting her leave here alive. What do you mean by the Empress? I am a stupid woman. Please make it clear. Han Sueki asked carefully. Guo Moi rebelled and committed rebellion. You are the mother of the Guo family and your guilt is not light. Although His Majesty has pardoned you, you still have to pay something to make up for the mistakes you committed. The beautiful woman said indifferently. Please tell me, My Majesty, as long as it can atone for the sins of the common women are willing to do anything. Han Sueki gritted her teeth and said. She had resigned herself to her fate, and the only thing she prayed for was that she could save her life and survive. The beautiful woman smiled slightly and said slowly. In that case, I will grant you the status of a slave in Yeting to atone for your sins. The beautiful woman's voice was gentle, but it had an air of irresistibility. As soon as these words came out, Han Sueki's delicate body shook violently, as if struck by lightning, her face showed despair. She originally thought that the emperor would be lenient and spare her life. But she didn't expect that she would be asked to be a maid in Yeting. That was Yeting, responsible for the humble role of cleaning the palace, serving the emperor, and serving the concubines. This profession is so despicable that it is even worse than a prostitute. Empress. Han Sueki struggled to get up and begged. I beg your Majesty to show some mercy. Her voice was shrill, her face was full of tears, her pear blossoms were covered with rain, and she was so pitiful that any man who saw her would probably feel pity. Unfortunately, the person opposite her was a woman. Facing her cry, the beautiful woman looked cold and unmoved at all. Han Sueki. The beautiful woman said calmly. Your Majesty is kind-hearted and will pardon your death penalty. Don't be greedy, otherwise you will offend your Majesty. Not only you, but your entire clan will be implicated. In an instant, Han Sueki felt her head buzzing, a bone-chilling chill emerging from her heart, and her whole body was cold. At this moment, she finally understood. Since entering the palace, her fate has been determined. The beautiful woman handed over the tray she had prepared long ago and placed it in front of Han Sueki. From now on, this piece of clothing will be a symbol of your status. Remember not to throw it away. Han Sueki looked down and found a set of clothes on the tray. It's just that this dress is extremely weird, completely different from what I usually wear. I saw that this dress was divided into two parts, the upper and lower parts. On top was a black coat with a white lining inside. Below is a tight skirt that hugs the buttocks, revealing her two slender and round legs, which perfectly accentuates her plump and curvy figure. The most peculiar thing is that there is a pair of thin and long black socks with high transparency. Moreover, the material of this pair of black socks is extremely soft, like satin, smooth to the touch, and has a soft luster to the touch, which is obviously good. In addition, there were some accessories that she couldn't understand, such as a white foxtail, a black leather piece, a pearl bracelet, a necklace with bells, etc. This made Han Sueki frown even more tightly. What kind of strange costume is this? And she always felt that this dress was weird and something was not right. Is there any trace of what a maid should look like? She even wondered if the woman had picked up the wrong clothes. But she didn't dare to say it for fear of offending the Empress. Mother, this. Han Sueki hesitated for a moment and then asked. These are new clothes that His Majesty personally selected for you. It is a favor given to you. I hope you will not disappoint His Majesty's expectations. The beautiful woman explained calmly. Go down and change your clothes. Remember, you must serve His Majesty well tonight. As the last word fell, she smiled sweetly, with unparalleled grace and beauty, eclipsing all the other beauties in the world, eclipsing the whole world. After saying this, she moved her long jade legs and returned directly to the main hall of Vyang Palace. Han Sweki was left standing there in a daze, and she didn't come back to her senses for a long time. Night falls, the moon is bright and the stars are few. In the palace city, the lights are brightly lit. The palaces and gardens everywhere were brightly lit, with singing and dancing, and the lights swaying. Compared with this noisy and complicated scene, a quiet courtyard fell into silence. The door was closed, the room was empty, only the candlestick was lit, reflecting a lonely figure. Han Sweki sat on the chair, staring blankly out the window, with mixed feelings in her heart. Am I really going to enter the deep palace and become a lowly female slave in the palace? No, I won't accept it. Han Sweki opened her pearly teeth slightly, and the flames of hatred burst out of her eyes. She was the daughter of the Han family, but she was going to become a slave. How could I, Han Sweki, be reduced to this? Han Sweki gritted her teeth. However, when she thought of the words of the beautiful woman just now, her fighting spirit was extinguished in her heart. Forget it, things have come to this, what else can I do? After a long time, Han Sweki sighed and murmured bitterly. She slowly stood up and walked slowly towards the dressing table. This is the palace, and every woman who was demoted here lives here. Han Sweki is no exception. Her bedroom was a remote courtyard, far from the imperial garden. The environment here was several times worse than that of the harem. Han Sweki came to the dressing table and slowly put on the strange clothes. What a strange design! Han Sweki couldn't help but reach out and touch her chest, where an ancient silver bell hung, making a series of ding-dong sounds. The black silk stockings on her legs also made her feel strange. They felt very smooth, like ripples on water. She stepped on them tentatively and found that they were extremely elastic and very comfortable. This dress is comfortable. Han Sweki breathed a sigh of relief. This strange fabric made her feel very close to her body, as if it was tailor-made for her. However, she didn't know how to wear other accessories. Han Sweki frowned. Where did she wear this foxtail? And this string of pearls? It was too big to wear on the hand and too small to wear on the neck, and she didn't know what specific use it had. At this time, a cold voice came from outside. Your Majesty has ordered that after midnight tonight, everyone must rush to Xuanhuan Palace to wait for an audience. At the beginning, I gave the future Empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 15. This voice is not unfamiliar, it is that beautiful woman. Hearing that voice, Han Sweki was startled. She looked up and saw outside the gate of the courtyard, a beautiful woman covered in white gauze stepped in, as if she had been banished to the mortal world. See you, Empress. Han Sweki was startled and hurriedly knelt down. Although she doesn't like this beautiful woman, she won't be stupid enough to contradict her. After all, her life and death now depend on the other person's thoughts. The beautiful woman nodded lightly, then looked at Han Sweki, half smiling but not smiling. She didn't say anything, turned and left. Han Sweki breathed a sigh of relief. Return to the room. Han Sweki looked at the pile of strange clothes in front of her and fell into confusion again. How on earth are you going to wear this, and this skirt is a bit too short, how could it have such a ridiculous design? This must be the deliberate design of that foolish king. He is indeed the most foolish king in the ages. Han Sweki pouted in distress while complaining. She tugged on a corner of her skirt and studied how to wear other accessories with a rosy complexion. Soon, the time came. Under great fear, Han Sueki finally found some ways. But she was completely dumbfounded. Is this really what I imagined? Han Sueki wasn't sure. But according to her research, that seems to be the case. Han Sueki's face turned red and she spat repeatedly, "Bah! You shameless and dissolute king. You can't think of it. But scolding will be scolded." Under the threat of death, she could only return the accessories one by one with a blushing face. There was no way, she really didn't want to die. Soon, Han Sueki lined up with the other women who had been demoted as slaves and respectfully followed the female officials to Xuanhuan Palace. It was at this time that Han Sueki discovered that the wives, concubines, and even daughters of the other bachelors of the Chinese Academy of Sciences who participated in the parade were all here. They all had fearful eyes and faces full of sadness. Because they know clearly that once they go there, it will be difficult to escape from the clutches of the devil. However, Han Sueki also noticed that she was the only one wearing this strange costume, and no one else was wearing it. This makes her very conspicuous in the team. It also made several other Hanlin Academy bachelors' family members cast strange looks. Han Sueki felt uncomfortable all over, so she had to lower her head and walk forward with weird steps. Finally, Xuanhuan Palace has arrived. Everyone was let in. Han Sueki glanced at it and saw that the entire Xuanhuan Hall was 100 feet in diameter. It is surrounded by glazed tiles, red brick walls, carved railings, and painted buildings. There are many tables and chairs in the palace for the concubines to enjoy themselves. At this time, there were already 20 or 30 graceful women in the huge hall. These women are either elegant and dignified, seductive, or graceful. They were chatting and laughing, making people dazzled and confused. However, Han Sueki had no time to appreciate it. She just lowered her head and stood silently in the corner. And at this time, the beautiful woman also came slowly. She was dressed in a gorgeous purple robe, embroidered with delicate orchids, and a long sword hung from her waist, which highlighted her slim and delicate body. Her skin is as good as snow, her facial features are extremely beautiful, and every move she makes shows her charm. Just listen to her say, "Your Majesty has arrived." Aha! In an instant, the entire palace was quiet for a moment, and soon a series of frightened eyes gathered at the entrance of the palace. A tall and slender figure slowly appeared in front of everyone. Qin Mu was seen wearing a dragon-patterned robe and unicorn boots. His long black hair was tied up on his head, revealing his handsome and angular face. "See your Majesty! Long live my emperor! Long live my emperor!" In an instant, everyone present was kneeling on the ground, kowtowing and shouting. Han Sueki also knelt on the ground, her head lowered, not daring to look up. But the footsteps in my ears were getting closer and closer. Until she saw a pair of black and yellow brocade shoes appearing in front of her eyes. Qin Mu looked down at her with a smile on his lips. Although it was the first time for him to meet Han Sueki, the so-called talented woman from Chang'an, the memories left by her previous life made him very familiar with her. As a famous talented woman in Chang'an City, although she is married to Guomoy, a bachelor of Hanwen Academy, she still has many admirers, including many ministers of the dynasty. In today's words, Han Sueki is their Baiyueguang, their goddess idol. As a mediocre and dissolute emperor, of course he must carry out his debauchery to the end. The clothes on Han Sueki were specially made for her. I believe someone should report this matter in the court tomorrow. The corners of Qin Mu's mouth curved into a playful arc. "What's your name?" Qin Mu asked calmly. Folk girl Han Sueki, please see your Majesty." Han Sueki lowered her head and her voice trembled slightly. "Oh, I remembered." Qin Mu nodded, suddenly leaned over and got closer to Han Sueki. Han Sueki's whole body was tense, and cold sweat was dripping from her forehead. But Qin Mu didn't seem to notice this at all. Instead, he stared at her face and watched with interest. Yes, you are worthy of being the wife of the Grand Secretary of the Xuanhuan Academy. Sure enough, she is beautiful, charming, and stunning. Qin Mu praised. Hearing this, Han Sueki trembled slightly, and a hint of hatred flashed in the depths of her eyes. On the surface, she still pretended to be afraid. She kept reminding herself not to be impulsive. Otherwise, she would lose her life. Thinking of this, Han Sueki suppressed her humiliation and anger, gritted her teeth and said, Thank you for your compliment, Your Majesty. Qin Mu smiled. I heard that you were the most talented woman in Chang'an City. In that case, would you be willing to write a poem for me? Han Sueki felt humiliated, but she could only bear it. She lowered her head, her voice as thin as a mosquito, willing to serve Your Majesty. Then, she thought for a while and was about to recite. Wait a minute. Suddenly, Qin Mu interrupted her. Han Sueki looked at Qin Mu in confusion, not knowing what he wanted to do. Qin Mu smiled and continued, Let's do something different, dancing and reciting at the same time. Han Sueki was stunned. She hesitated for a moment and whispered, I am stupid and not good at singing and dancing. I am afraid I will show my ugliness. Qin Mu smiled and said, It's very simple. Come, Yan'er, show her. As soon as he finished speaking, Han Sueki saw the beautiful woman walking out with lotus steps. Her name was Yan'er. Han Sueki knew her name only then. She was wearing a thin shirt, with a graceful figure and a slender waist like a willow branch. Yan'er danced gracefully, and with the thin shirt and gauze on her body, she looked like a fairy exiled to the earth. When she waved her wrist, the cuffs fluttered, adding to her hazy charm. Her dance was originally normal. But as she danced, things soon became strange. Han Sueki's cheeks burned hot, and she was too embarrassed to look at it. Can this be called a dance? This is clearly. Han Sueki couldn't help but curse in her heart, what a licentious emperor. He is simply a pervert. After Yan'er finished dancing, she immediately attracted the admiration of the concubines around her. Qin Mu also nodded with satisfaction and praised, Not bad, go down. I obey your order. Yan'er bowed gracefully. Then, she put on the veil again and returned to her previous position. Qin Mu looked at Han Sueki again, and said with a smile on his face. Han, talented woman, it's your turn. Han Sueki bit her red lips with her pearly teeth, cursing in her heart. But she could only bite the bullet and stand up, walk to the center, and bow respectfully, then I will show my ugliness. Then she began to recite poems while dancing. Feeling the strange gazes around her, Han Sueki felt extremely stiff. This feeling was like taking off all her clothes in front of everyone, which was extremely embarrassing. Qin Mu frowned and said, You really made a fool of yourself. What kind of dance are you doing? Han Sueki froze. The feeling of humiliation melted into her heart. She suppressed the shame in her heart and tried not to think about it, reciting poems while dancing. However, the harder Han Sueki tried to control herself, the more confused she became. Even in the end, she began to be unable to distinguish between reality and illusion, and everything was like a dream. It was just that this dream, from the nightmare at the beginning, gradually underwent inexplicable changes. 3 days passed in a blink of an eye. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 16. The body of Guo Moi of Hanwen Academy is still hanging on the city wall as a warning to others. His wife Han Sueki was demoted to a slave in the palace and became a maid in front of the emperor. It is said that she was forced to dance and recite poems for the tyrant emperor, which was extremely licentious. Somehow, this news got out of the palace and quickly spread throughout Chang'an city. Everyone was sighing. The former most talented woman in Chang'an became a slave overnight. This is simply a tragedy. Not only Han Sueki. The wives, concubines, and daughters of other Hanwen Academy scholars also suffered. Their family positions and powers were also taken away. In just a few days, the major noble families in Chang'an city suffered huge losses. All this was caused by the violent and cruel emperor. Everyone once again witnessed the stupidity and cruelty of the current emperor. In addition, the news of suspected rebellion from the north once again aroused people's dissatisfaction with the tyrant and their concerns about the future of the Qin dynasty. For a time, everyone was indignant and their dissatisfaction was almost beyond words. Although there was no voice of conquest on the surface, many people secretly cursed him in private. That tyrant was too cruel. He not only killed Grand Secretary Guo, but also occupied his wife. It was simply infuriating to both humans and gods. A young man complained in a merchant's house. Grand Secretary Guo worked hard for our Qin dynasty and taught countless disciples. After his death, we should have paid tribute to him. But now, even his wife has become the plaything of the tyrant. It's really. In a school palace outside Chang'an city, a middle-aged man dressed as a Confucian scholar was also angry. Tyrant, tyrant, when has our Qin dynasty ever had such a tyrant? In a restaurant, an old man with a white beard was full of resentment. I heard that the tyrant also forced Han Kanu to dance absurdly. This is worse than pigs and dogs. A young man was indignant. We are not convinced. Han Kanu is noble and upright. How can she be defiled by this tyrant? A group of young people were indignant. Mrs. Han has a bad fate. She is really a miserable person. A woman shook her head with regret. A storm spread from then on. Qin Mu's reputation for being mediocre went up to another level. The effect was very good. The tide was surging in Chang'an city, and the people were talking about it. As the initiator, Qin Mu sat on the high platform, drinking tea and admiring the moon. On the side, were Yunyaner and two other palace maids. During these 3 days, Qin Mu was not obsessed with beauty all the time. He also practiced for a while when he had time. Of course, it was double cultivation. The double cultivation technique he obtained was not a decoration, but an immortal level technique. If he practiced to the great success level, he could even have 3,000 women and ascend to heaven in broad daylight. Although it has not achieved such an exaggerated effect yet, it is indeed the fastest way for him to advance to a higher realm and increase his strength. In less than half a month, he has already advanced from the first level of the Shenzang realm to the 5th level of the Shenzang realm. And that's not all. Qin Mu's physical strength has also improved a lot, enough to rival the physique of a young divine beast. At this rate of progress, it won't take long for him to enter the Yuanshen realm and have the power to truly overturn rivers and seas and travel the sky. By then, even if he encounters a cultivator in the Dongxi realm, he will have the strength to fight. Your Majesty. Yunyaner opened her mouth lightly. Her eyebrows and eyes are delicate, her skin is as smooth as jade, and her every move reveals 1,000 kinds of charm. She knelt gently on the ground and whispered. The dance you want is ready, shall we start now? These days, in addition to accompanying Qin Mu every day, Yunyaner occasionally helps Qin Mu deal with government affairs. And because of the method of dual cultivation, she has also benefited a lot from it. Not only has the speed of cultivation doubled, but the cultivation has also improved significantly. Her temperament and appearance became more charming and seductive, like a fox demon. Her every frown and smile exuded an aura that enchanted everyone, making people intoxicated. This made Xuanhuan more docile, and she served Qin Mu wholeheartedly, fearing that she would fall out of favor one day. Qin Mu nodded slightly and signaled to start. The next moment, accompanied by the melodious and pleasant sound of stringed instruments, Xuanhuan slowly took lotus steps, walked to the front of the high platform, and threw countless petals casually. In an instant, flowers were flying all over the sky, and the fragrance was rich, as if a fairyland had descended, making people feel relaxed and happy. Then, a gorgeous and beautiful woman walked out. This woman had a gorgeous face, a slender and soft waist, and a light and transparent colorful feather dress that covered her graceful body, adding to the temptation. The skirt fluttered lightly, and in a trance, it seemed as if she was about to ride the wind. This woman was Han Sueki from Xuanhuan Academy. However, compared to her past elegance and dignity, Han Sueki now looked particularly charming, with red lips and a pair of phoenix eyes. She had a strange sense of charm. Even if Qin Mu had great concentration, he was still slightly stunned at this moment. At this moment, he finally understood the preferences of Prime Minister Cao. Question Cao, understand Cao, become Cao, and surpass Cao. Qin Mu perfectly completed these 4 steps of transformation. Ding! Congratulations to the host for reaching a higher level of stupidity and obtaining the stupidity reward, the mark of the ancient demon clan. Ancient demon seal, when engraved on the target, it will make them obey the sealer and never betray for the rest of their lives. There is no way to remove it, and their mind and character will gradually degenerate towards the direction of the demons. The specific effect depends on the firmness of the other party's mind. If the target's will collapses, the target can be converted into a demon puppet. Note that the seal can only be engraved on those who are weaker than you. Those who are stronger than you face the possibility of failure. The system's voice sounded, and then a strange black mark appeared in Qin Mu's mind. This mark looks like a butterfly with its wings spread out, or like a burning flame, with faint black and red lines flowing. There are circles of spirals surrounding the surface, but in the center, there is a pattern in the shape of a heart. And around the heart, there are wisps of black air lingering, which looks extremely hideous and filled with evil and strange breath. Demon seal. Looking at the black mark, Qin Mu's mouth curled up slightly, revealing a smile. This thing is very suitable for me. Whether it is used to make demon puppets or to control enemies, it is very useful. Your Majesty, your smile is so scary. Do you want to eat me? Xuanhuan blinked and said timidly. Her cheeks were flushed, and she glanced at Qin Mu from the corner of her eyes. After getting along with each other for these days, she had already figured out Qin Mu's preferences. Qin Mu smiled slightly. He pulled the other party into his arms with his backhand. Xuanhuan moaned and immediately collapsed in Qin Mu's arms, with a charming look. Another ordinary day. The next day. Ding! It was detected that the host had not been to the court for 10 days, and a stupid reward was obtained, 10 bottles of soul-replenishing pills. Qin Mu opened his eyes in a burst of system prompts. Soul-replenishing pills can make up for the lack of talent in cultivation and make the qualifications better. For ordinary cultivators, a soul-replenishing pill is no less than an opportunity to change fate. But for Qin Mu, it was better than nothing, and it didn't have much effect. But it could be given as a reward to his subordinates. Qin Mu struggled to get up from the dragon couch where the jade body lay, and tidied up his messy clothes. He walked out of the bedroom and came to the side hall. In the side hall, a man covered in black clothes had been waiting here for a long time. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Leng Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 17. He stood in front of the side hall door, like a statue, and said nothing. But the terrifying evil spirit he released made people feel uneasy. And he was wearing a black mask, so his face could not be seen clearly, only a pair of cold and ruthless eyes flashing scarlet light. This is the Dark God Guard. The last Emperor Qin personally trained the Death Warriors to perform various secret missions and protect Qin Mu's safety. Dark God Guard Commander Li Hanshan, meet your majesty. The black-robed man looked up at Qin Mu with a respectful tone. He knelt on his knees and crawled on the ground. Get up. Qin Mu waved his hand and sat down on the chair. Thank you, your majesty. Li Hanshan stood up after hearing this, still silent. How is the situation recently, especially Zhang Luoshan in the North Territory? Is there any new news? Qin Mu asked directly. These days, he seems to have been doing all kinds of foolish things, but that is just to get system rewards. In fact, he had secretly asked the Dark God Guard to investigate the movements and situations of various forces, and to plan and strategize thousands of miles away. After all, in this fantasy world where strength is everything, one could lose his life if he was not careful. Qin Mu didn't want to be caught off guard. Your Majesty. Li Hanshan knelt on one knee and clasped his fists, saying, according to our investigation, everything in the northern border is normal for the time being, and no troops or powerful beings have stepped out of the 3 continents of the northern border so far. Oh! Qin Mu raised his eyebrows, showing surprise. He thought Zhang Luoshan would immediately send troops to rebel, but he didn't expect that he just refused the poisoned wine and killed the guards who announced the decree, and there was no major action other than that. However, this also proves that Zhang Luoshan is not a reckless person. An enemy who knows how to endure is far more terrifying than a high-profile enemy. Zhang Luoshan is definitely not simple. Your Majesty, I think Zhang Luoshan will not give up. Once she finds an opportunity, it will cause immeasurable losses to Dakin. After a moment of silence, Li Hanshan said solemnly, therefore, Your Majesty should make a quick decision to avoid more trouble. Yes. Qin Mu nodded. He also knew about this. But Qin Mu still needs Zhang Luoshan, the experience baby, to make it convenient for him to make various foolish moves and get system rewards. So he is not going to take action against the North for the time being. Since she can hold back, I am not in a hurry to achieve success. Qin Mu thought for a moment, and then said lightly, you continue to monitor the North and report if there is anything. As ordered, Li Hanshan knelt down and responded without hesitation. Your Majesty's consideration is naturally justified. The meaning of his existence is to obey orders, regardless of reasons or right or wrong. Then, Li Hanshan said, Your Majesty, although there is nothing unusual in the northern border, there are signs of a large number of troops gathering in the southern border. And Huainan King Qin Shija has been in and out of Chang'an City a few days ago, and has close ties with Hongyang King. Oh, Qin Mu raised his eyebrows, showing interest. What tricks are these 2 guys trying to play again? Your Majesty. Li Hanshan paused, and then continued, Huainan King and Hongyang King are brothers from the same mother. If they get together, there may be changes. It doesn't matter. Qin Mu waved his hand, these 2 trash can't make any waves? Yes. Hearing the contempt in Qin Mu's words, Li Hanshan lowered his head. It is a great honor for him, an outsider, to hear this about the internal struggle of the royal family. But he was a little surprised in his heart. I have followed His Majesty for so long, why have I never seen him like this? In the eyes of His Majesty, the King of Huainan and the King of Hongyang don't seem to be anything. Continue to monitor the northern and southern borders, and report to me immediately if there is any movement, especially Zhang Luoshan. You must keep a close eye on her, and don't slack off at all. Qin Mu instructed. As ordered. If there is nothing else, leave. Qin Mu waved his hand, signaling the other party to leave. Yes, Your Majesty. Li Hanshan bowed and left. Wait a moment. However, Qin Mu stopped him. Li Hanshan paused and asked in confusion, what else does Your Majesty want? Don't leave in a hurry. Qin Mu shook his head. He suddenly thought of something, and gently turned his right hand and threw out a bottle of pills. Li Han's hand subconsciously reached out to catch the pills. A strong fragrance came to his nose, refreshing his heart. The bottle was filled with dozens of emerald green pills, and the surface of the pills had golden lines flowing, as if they were alive. "This is the soul replenishing pill, which is my private collection," Xuanhuan said with a smile. "Take some and give some to the meritorious people in the Dark God Guard, and keep the rest for yourself." Li Han's hand was stunned. He didn't expect that His Majesty would actually reward him with such a precious pill. "Your Majesty, this is too expensive, I dare not accept it." Li Han's hand knelt down and refused with fear and trepidation. Soul replenishing pill. This is a soul replenishing pill that is said to be able to make up for the defects of the cultivator's talent. Each one is priceless and hard to find in the world. I asked you to keep it, so keep it. Xuanhuan frowned. "Don't you think this thing is not worthy of you?" "I dare not." Li Han's hand kowtowed hurriedly, then carefully put away the soul replenishing pill, and said respectfully, "I thank your Majesty for your grace on behalf of many brothers in the Dark God Guard." "That's right. Only when your strength is enhanced can you complete more difficult tasks and be more helpful to me, isn't it?" Xuanhuan nodded with satisfaction. "Yes, I will definitely serve your Majesty with all my heart and soul, and go through fire and water without hesitation." Li Han's hand knelt down again with great excitement. "With this Buling pill, I believe I will be able to make further progress soon." "Okay, you can leave first." Xuanhuan waved his hand and signaled Li Han's hand to leave. "Yes." Li Han's hand responded respectfully, and then turned into a black shadow and left. Xuanhuan stood up. A bottle of Bulletin Tian pill is nothing to him, but for a leader of the Dark God Guard like Li Han's hand, it is tantamount to a life-saving medicine. It is perfect for winning people's hearts. "King Huainan, King Hongyang." Xuanhuan's mouth curled up slightly, revealing a cold arc. "Wait, you two jumping clowns won't be able to jump around for long." He put away his mind and prepared to return to the palace to continue his ordinary day. No, it should be said that it was a day of hard practice. After all, does double cultivation not count as practice? "Your Majesty, your Majesty." Just then, a burst of hurried footsteps sounded, followed by a slightly panicked voice from outside the palace. Xuanhuan frowned slightly. Turning around, he saw a pretty maid running towards him in a hurry. "What's the matter?" He glanced at the female official coldly and said indifferently, "I see your Majesty." The maid was startled and quickly fell to the ground, trembling, and said, "Your Majesty, just now, the national teacher came to visit and said that he had something urgent to report, and was anxiously wandering at the door of the imperial study." Han Sueki's daily life in the Yeting Palace. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Leng Mi and Bulletin Leng. Chapter 18. National Preceptor. Xuanhuan's eyes flickered. The national counselor Du Yulin is a veteran of 3 dynasties and has served the Qin dynasty for more than 1,000 years. He has always been loyal to the Qin dynasty. He has a low-key personality, treats others well, and is very popular in the court. And his strength is also unfathomable. It is said that he entered the realm of a saint in his early years, but was injured in a battle, causing his strength to drop and no longer reach its peak. But despite the decline in strength, Du Yulin is still one of the top combat forces in Qin. It's just that he usually keeps a low profile and rarely takes action. It was obviously no small matter for him to come over in person. "Summon him for an audience," Xuanhuan ordered. "Promise." The maid responded, turned around and ran to summon him. Xuanhuan then walked towards the imperial study. Outside the imperial study room, Du Yulin put his hands behind his back and paced back and forth, with a faint look of fatigue between his brows. These days, if Xuanhuan is the most carefree and comfortable, then the one who is most worried is the national master Du Yulin. As a loyal veteran, he was the last person who wanted to see the great Qin Empire decline. Towards Qin Mu, he has always been like an old father, protective and considerate in every possible way. But the other party just didn't understand his painstaking efforts. Blindly addicted to pleasure, debauchery, and immorality. Now he is even more wanton and reckless, causing internal and external troubles to the already precarious Qin Empire, making the situation even more dangerous. Qin Mu's stupid move undoubtedly made matters worse. Well. Du Yulin sighed. Suddenly, his ears twitched slightly and he looked up suddenly. In the distance, I saw a figure approaching slowly. It was Qin Mu. His Majesty. Du Yulin's eyes lit up and he rushed forward to greet him. What makes the Imperial Master so flustered? Qin Mu asked. Your Majesty, you have finally appeared, Du Yulin said anxiously. If you don't show up again, I may not be able to hold on any longer. Qin Mu was surprised. What happened? His Majesty. Du Yulin suppressed his anger and gritted his teeth and said, the Kangyu dynasty sent envoys today. Not only did they act arrogantly and unscrupulously in Chang'an City, they also made rude remarks and bluntly said that they wanted to see you in the court. If you don't go to court, you are afraid of them. Oh, Qin Mu raised his eyebrows slightly, but he was not too surprised. He had already anticipated this situation. Both the Kangyu dynasty and the Qianyuan dynasty were in the area north of the Qin dynasty, especially the Kangyu dynasty, whose territory bordered the three northern continents. Therefore, the Great Qin dynasty, which had the largest territory and richest resources, naturally became the target of Kangyu and Qianyuan siege. The three parties have been at odds with each other for a long time. However, the new empress who ascended the throne a few years ago in the Kangyu dynasty suddenly changed her previous style. She no longer sent troops to harass the northern border of Qin dynasty, but instead sat on a mountain and watched the fight between tigers and tigers. Only then did the northern border usher in a brief period of peace, and even though the Qianyuan kingdom was eager to occupy Qin, it did not dare to act rashly. Therefore, the three dynasties have maintained a delicate relationship in recent years. Now that King Zhenbei is dead, Zhang Luoshan has turned against him, and the delicate relationship has been broken. It seems that Kangyu dynasty can finally sit still. Qin Mu's mouth showed a hint of coldness. What Qin Mu didn't expect was that the other party was so eager to act. There hasn't been much movement in the north yet, but envoys have already been sent. There must be some conspiracy behind this, or something happened. Announce the decree and go to court. Qin Mu said calmly, I want to see how arrogant they are. According to the order. Du Yulin on the side breathed a sigh of relief and quickly went down to deliver the order. Soon, Qin Mu changed into a dragon robe and came to the main hall. Let us meet His Majesty. All the ministers kowtowed and shouted. Your Majesty, please excuse me. Qin Mu waved his hand, walked up to the dragon chair, and sat down. Brother Imperial. You finally appeared. A man wearing a python robe came out, bowed and said. The Kangyu dynasty sent an envoy to see the Emperor brother, saying that he had important matters to discuss with the Emperor brother. I already know. Qin Mu said calmly. Brother Imperial, you must be careful. The man in the python robe was the king of Hongyang, Qin Shijing. At this time, his face was solemn and he said in a deep voice. The Kangyu dynasty is extremely ambitious. It has coveted the territory of Great Qin for a long time and has been ready to make a move. Now it is taking advantage of the chaos in the three northern continents to send envoys to show off its power. It is really abominable to be ambitious. These words seemed to be rebuking the Kangyu dynasty, but in fact they were mocking Qin Mu both overtly and covertly. If Qin Mu hadn't been so stupid and executed King Zhenbei without any reason, forcing Zhang Luoshan to overthrow, the three northern states would not be in chaos, and the other side would not have the chance to take advantage of the situation. After saying these words, Hongyang King Qin Shijing stood aside quietly waiting for Qin Mu's reaction, feeling very proud at the same time. There was no flaw in his words. He not only expressed his anger, but also belittled Qin Mu. It was simply brilliant. Qin Mu glanced at Qin Shijing lightly and said, "It seems that King Hongyang has a big opinion against the Kanyu dynasty. In that case, why not lead the troops to attack the Kanyu dynasty, which can be considered as a way to relieve the worries of the Qin dynasty?" Hongyang King Qin Shijing was stunned when he heard this. Let him lead troops to attack the Kanyu dynasty? Are you kidding? The Kanyu dynasty was so powerful, how could he shake it? What's the difference between that and committing suicide? What objection does King Hongyang have? Qin Mu said calmly. My brother has no objections, King Hongyang swallowed and said dryly. It's just that the Kanyu dynasty is very powerful. If they attack rashly, they will suffer heavy losses. This matter needs long-term consideration. Qin Shijing was about to cry but had no tears at this time. What he said just now seems to be just shooting himself in the foot. Isn't this a typical self-destruction? Qin Mu glanced sideways and said calmly. Didn't you just say that the Kanyu dynasty was ambitious and attempted to invade our territory of Great Qin? Why are you giving in now? Qin Shijing opened his mouth, a thin layer of sweat appeared on his forehead. He hesitated for a long time, not knowing what to say. I heard that the quality of the troops of the Hongyang Prince's palace is quite good. It is a troubled time now. If we can help Great Qin win the Kanyu dynasty, it will be considered a great achievement. I wonder what Prince Hongyang wants. Qin Mu said with a smile. This. Qin Shijing's eyes flickered and he was speechless. That army was left by him to seize the throne, not to die. At this time, a fat-headed civil servant with a sinister face came to the rescue. Your Majesty, the Kanyu dynasty's ambition is indeed abominable, but it is far from the point of sending troops to attack. In my opinion, it is not too late to invite the envoys of the Kanyu dynasty to see them first and see what they are planning to do. These ministers are all old and cunning people, and they have given advice one after another. Qin Shijing breathed a sigh of relief and glanced at the person who spoke. This guy's name is Wang Xin. He is a minister and is in charge of the world's money and food management. He is greedy for money and lustful, but he is quite clever. He is the candidate he wants to win over. Qin Mu glanced at Wang Xin, his eyes fell on Qin Shijing's face, and said lightly. What does King Hongyang think? Your Majesty is wise. Hongyang King Qin Shijing smiled and hurriedly agreed. How dare he raise objections? Seeing this, Qin Mu raised the corner of his mouth with a sarcastic arc, shook his head disdainfully, and was too lazy to say more. He then turned his attention to the outside of the palace and said, Let the envoy from the Xian Kanyu dynasty pay an audience. As you command. A chamberlain responded respectfully and then withdrew. After a while, the palace door opens. Several figures walked in slowly. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Leng Mi and Buletin Leng. Chapter 19. The two old men in blue were in the lead, with a strong and fierce aura, giving people a great sense of threat. Then in the middle was a graceful woman in a blue skirt, with a stunning appearance and blue eyes, revealing a cold light. The three of them walked into the hall together. The state teacher Du Yulin looked at the two old men in the lead with a serious expression. Because these two old men in blue were both in the realm of killing the Wei, only one step away from the position of saint. Your Majesty, we are here to visit you on the order of the Empress. The old man on the left bowed and said with an arrogant look. Although the old man on the right did not speak, his eyebrows were full of disdain and contempt. They deliberately used the word visit instead of pay homage. The meaning is obvious. Behind the two old men in blue, the woman in blue skirt did not even do the etiquette. This made the ministers present angry. These people from the Kangyu dynasty were too arrogant. Qin Mu smiled slightly, his eyes deep and deep. I wonder what the envoy of the Kangyu dynasty came for this time. The two old men in green looked at each other, and they saw the contempt and ridicule in each other's eyes. Obviously, they had also heard about the absurd things Qin Mu had done during this period, and their evaluation of Qin Mu had dropped to the bottom, and they simply looked down on Qin Mu, the incompetent emperor. The disgust in the eyes of the blue-skirted woman was even more undisguised. Finally, it was the old man on the left who said lightly, "This time we are here on the orders of the empress to inform you of a news from the great Qin." "Oh." Qin Mu asked with interest, "Please speak." 3 days ago, the Xuanhuan dynasty sent an envoy to our Kangyu dynasty to meet the empress and pray for cooperation to destroy the great Qin together. The old man looked indifferent and said lightly. When this was said, the whole hall was shocked. All the ministers widened their eyes and showed a look of astonishment. The Xuanhuan dynasty actually wanted to join forces with the Kangyu dynasty to deal with the great Qin? This news shocked everyone. The current situation of Dakin is precarious. If the Kangyu dynasty really joins forces with the Xuanhuan dynasty, they may be able to defeat Dakin in one fell swoop. Du Yulin, the national teacher, was also shocked, but then he immediately reacted. The Kangyu dynasty should not have agreed to cooperate with the Xuanhuan dynasty, otherwise it would not have sent envoys to Dakin. However, even so, the situation in Dakin has become more and more critical. Du Yulin hurriedly looked at Qin Mu, worried that His Majesty would show panic and let these envoys catch the flaw. However, what he didn't expect was that Qin Mu's expression was still normal, without showing any panic, but showing a hint of teasing. This made Du Yulin surprised. "Your Majesty seems to have really changed." "I saw," Qin Mu said with a half smile. "Is what you said true?" "Absolutely true." The two old men in green were arrogant and looked down at Qin Mu. "This is the token of the Xuanhuan dynasty. Please take a look, Your Majesty." As he said, the old man on the right snapped his fingers, and a golden token swelled up in the wind, instantly turning into several feet in size, floating in the air, shining brightly. Qin Mu reached out and held the token in his hand. On the surface of the token was carved a lifelike Kylin. "It's the Kylin token of the Xuanhuan dynasty." Du Yulin exclaimed, a trace of horror flashed in his eyes, and his expression became more solemn. "It's really the thing of the Xuanhuan dynasty. It seems that the Xuanhuan dynasty is really going to take action against our great Qin. This is trouble." In the hall, the ministers talked a lot, and their faces were different. This Kirin order is a token of the Xuanhuan dynasty, representing a symbol, and it cannot be false. In this way, the Xuanhuan dynasty is determined to deal with Dakin. In the past, they would not be too worried. After all, there is the king of Zhenbei and the foundation of Dakin. What can Xuanhuan and Kangyu do even if the two countries join forces? But now, they looked at Qin Mu sitting on the dragon throne, their eyes filled with deep regret and sorrow. How can such a tyrant withstand the combination of the two countries? In addition, the relationship between the north border and the Dakin royal family has completely broken down. Dakin is in danger. The eyes of many civil officials and military generals flickered slightly, and their minds became active. Qin Mu had an unpredictable smile on his face, playing with the token in his hand. Kangyu dynasty sent envoys to Dakin at this time, and it was obvious that it had not agreed to cooperate with the Xuanhuan dynasty. Otherwise, it would have killed them long ago. It is obvious that the empress of the Kangyu dynasty wanted to use this matter to put pressure on Dakin and gain more benefits. In layman's terms, she clearly told Qin Mu that I am about to fight you together with others. You only have one choice now, that is to give me more benefits, and then I may refuse other people's requests. Otherwise you are finished. Although this method of playing both sides is very dishonorable and a little shameless. But it must be said that such a method is much better than the direct attack of the Xuanhuan dynasty. You can achieve your goal without bloodshed, which is simply a win. No matter who the Kangyu dynasty cooperates with in the end, they will only win and not lose. Maybe they can even become bigger and annex the two countries in one fell swoop. The Xuanhuan dynasty must not have thought at this time that the Kangyu dynasty would betray them without hesitation, tell Dakin the whole plan, and wait for the price. The empress of the Kangyu dynasty has made a good plan. It seems that she is not an ordinary person to become the empress. We should not underestimate her. Qin Mu's mouth curled up. He was more and more interested in the empress of the Kangyu dynasty. He looked up at the two old men in green and asked calmly, in this case, what conditions does the Kangyu dynasty have? Haha, your majesty is really smart. Seeing Qin Mu say this, the old man in green stroked his beard and smiled. Our Majesty said that if the great Qin cedes the Kangyu Mountains and the surrounding 80,000 miles of mountains and rivers of the Kinling Mountains, and hands over half of the resources in the royal secret treasure house. As long as these 2 points are achieved, then my Majesty can guarantee that the great Qin will not be disturbed and will enjoy peace forever. After saying this, the old man in green smiled proudly and looked at Qin Mu, his eyes full of contempt and pity. As soon as these words fell, they immediately caused an uproar. The Kangyu Mountains and the Kinling Mountains are located in the northern border, and are the dividing line between the two countries. Each side holds half, which forms the current balance. But if it is ceded, wouldn't it make Dakin lose its barrier? What about the people in the northern border? What about the cultivation resources in the Kinling Mountains? And not only the entire mountain range, but also the surrounding 80,000 miles are ceded to the Kangyu dynasty. The Kinling Mountains are in the northern border, and the 80,000 miles of mountains and rivers almost cover the entire 3 continents of the northern border. This is equivalent to letting Dakin hand over the entire 3 continents of the northern border, which is a loss of power and humiliation. For a while, there was a commotion in the hall. A brief map of the locations of the 3 major dynasties. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 20. Presumptuous. The national preceptor Du Yulin was furious. You guys are talking like a lion, and you are thinking too wildly. The other generals also agreed and were filled with righteous indignation. Zhang Luoshan in the north has rebelled, so what's wrong with leaving it to us? The old man in green asked with a strange smile. Du Yulin snorted coldly, huh, that's our own business in Great Qin. It has nothing to do with your Kangyu dynasty. Oh, this is our bottom line. Another old man in green snorted coldly. If you refuse to cede the territory, then the Qin will wait to be destroyed, and you won't be able to escape. The echoes suddenly stopped, and many people had deep fear in their eyes, and their faces were extremely ugly. Yes. If Great Qin was destroyed, would they still be able to survive? The most important thing is such a fatuous emperor really worth fighting for? At this moment, many generals who were originally filled with righteous indignation were wavering and became restless. Even Hengyang King Qin Shijing was silent. Naturally, he did not want to see Great Qin destroyed. Otherwise, even if he wins the throne, what's the point? Du Yulin frowned deeply, and there was a faint worry between his brows, and he obviously knew that it was difficult to make a choice. With just one word, the ministers instantly became mute, and the anger gradually disappeared from their faces. Seeing this scene, the 2 old men in green looked at each other, with a hint of joking deep in their eyes. Our Empress, Your Majesty, has a good nature and cannot bear the world to fall into ruin. That's why she did not directly agree to the Qianyuan kingdom's request, but chose a gentler approach. I hope the Qin can understand our Majesty's good intentions and not let down our Majesty's good intentions. What he said was high-sounding and upright, as if he was really thinking about the Qin. But the threat is naked and self-evident. The hall fell into silence. The old man in green sneered, a hint of ridicule flashing across his eyes. "Your Majesty, think twice." Du Yulin gritted his teeth and was filled with sorrow. All the ministers in the main hall were silent and looked gloomy. Only Qin Mu was still sitting on it, with a leisurely demeanor, and said calmly, "I wonder what promises the Xuanhuan dynasty made to you." The old man glanced at Qin Mu lightly, with a trace of contempt flashing in his eyes. "Your Majesty, what do you think?" At this time, the beautiful girl in the blue dress, who had not spoken, her mouth slightly raised, her beautiful eyes glanced at Qin Mu, and said coldly, "The deposed emperor of Qin, you are not qualified to ask." Qin Mu raised his eyebrows and glanced at the girl. "Oh? I'm not qualified? Do you think you are qualified?" When the girl in blue skirt heard this, her pretty face became even more frosty, and her tone was cold. "I am Princess Can Yu, with extraordinary talent. She was adopted as an adopted daughter by your Majesty, and given the name Can Yu, so she is naturally qualified." Hearing this, all the ministers in the palace took a deep breath and looked in awe. It turned out that the girl among the messengers was actually the princess of the Can Yu dynasty. No wonder she dared to be so arrogant and unscrupulous. However, this just shows that the Can Yu Empire attaches great importance to this matter. "Oh? It turns out to be Her Royal Highness the Princess." Qin Mu glanced at her with a half-smile, and said slowly, "Aren't you afraid that I will kill you?" "Ha ha ha, your Majesty is joking." Hearing Qin Mu's words, the old man in green was stunned for a moment, and then couldn't help laughing. "Her Royal Highness the Princess is the apple of the eye of the Can Yu dynasty. If something happens, the Can Yu dynasty will surely overthrow the entire Great Qin. Do you dare to kill the princess? Unless your Majesty, you don't care about the lives of billions of people in the Qin dynasty." And he then grinned and continued, "If you kill Her Highness the Princess, do you think Can Yu dynasty will let you go?" As soon as he finished speaking, the old man in green clothes beside him suddenly stepped out, and a terrifying power filled the surrounding area, shocking the officials. The cultivation of Jean Dao was instantly revealed, like an ancient ferocious beast descending. Feeling the terrifying aura emanating from the old man, everyone changed their colors. In this era when saints have not emerged and the emperor has not yet been born, Jean Dao is already a top combat power and cannot be competed with. One Dao killing state is enough to sweep through a country and suppress a city. Moreover, the pressure on the old man was extremely strong at this time, and even a being like Du Yulin felt a huge pressure. What's more, there is more than one person who can kill this powerful person. The old man looked proud, looked at Qin Mu, and said indifferently, "Everyone should understand how powerful the Can Yu dynasty is. My Majesty has promised that as long as you agree to those two conditions, the Qin dynasty will have no worries. My Majesty has already expressed his sincerity. You must not let him down." After saying that, he glanced at everyone coldly, with a threatening tone evident in his words. All the ministers in the hall were silent, no one dared to speak, let alone refute. After all, they couldn't resist the old man's power. At this time, their hearts had been infinitely shaken. It's nothing more than ceding some territory. Qin is still Qin. As long as it is not destroyed, it will one day be able to stand up again. But if the Can Yu dynasty is rejected, then the Can Yu dynasty and the Xuanhuan dynasty will join forces. At that time, not only will Great Qin be completely destroyed, but their family will also be destroyed. This is a scene they absolutely don't want to see. Including Hongyang King Qin Shijing, everyone looked at Qin Mu, waiting for Qin Mu's reply. Only the imperial master Du Yulin was still kneeling on the ground, with a resolute look on his face. The people of the Great Qin would rather die on the battlefield than cede territory. Please think twice, Your Majesty. Qin Mu still sat firmly on the dragon throne, his expression calm and unmoved. His eyes were calm, as deep as the sea, as if they contained the vast stars. He swept his eyes over the ministers in the hall, and a curve appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Are you all ready to compromise?" As soon as these words came out, the whole hall fell silent. After a long time, someone finally stood up and bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, please put the country's destiny first and don't act on impulse. Once the war starts, there will be countless casualties. It is better to surrender. Your Majesty, the Kindling Mountains are within the northern border, and now the northern border is no longer under control, so there is nothing wrong with ceding it. Your Majesty, the Great Qin can no longer be tossed around. Your Majesty, think twice." The ministers shouted in unison. They just want to save the Great Qin now, and they don't care about losing power and humiliating the country. If ceding the northern border, which is completely unrelated to their interests, can save the Great Qin, then why not do it? Anyway, the northern border is about to rebel because of your stupid behavior. You made this mess yourself, so don't implicate us. As for the resources in the royal treasury, it has nothing to do with us. This idea is the inner thought of all the civil officials at this moment. Seeing this scene, the blue-skirted girl showed a hint of mockery in her eyes. Blue-skirted girl.